As a little girl, I was quite the yapper. I love to talk. I really love to talk. Little me would never shut up about the complicated story I would be creating for My Little Ponies. And now I still love to talk and argue. Evident by me standing right here. I love it so much that my friends are constantly going, Luna, can you just shut up? Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'll be talking to you all about why we feel a compulsion to shut people up and what the consequences for society may be when we allow ourselves to be silenced. So, the phrase shut up, right? I'm sure you've used it. It's aggressive compared to other phrases with the same meaning. Because back in the 1400s, shut up meant to secure something in a hollow object, like a closet or even a coffin. Look, I don't know what you're into, but for most people, being shut up in a coffin is not a pleasant thing to consider when being told to be quiet. So, why do we use this harsh phrase when we want others to be quiet? Well, the first answer that comes to mind is when someone is being annoying, which was probably how my family felt when I would butcher some physics concept I was super excited about after watching The Big Bang Theory. Well, not like much has changed. But situations like a child nagging, a classmate talking during class, or a person talking too loudly are situations we can all admit are super annoying. I know everyone in this room has told these people to shut up because, in our defense, sometimes we need a break from the bombardment of someone else's unwanted speech. But telling someone to shut up can come from another place. A place where the goal is not to stop someone from talking, but rather to stop their ideas from being shared. This is where shut up moves from silencing unwanted speech to silencing unwanted opinions. Let me set the scene. I was on a road trip a couple summers ago with my aunt, who is pretty conservative, and my lovely cousin. And of course, what else am I going to do on a long road trip except talk, talk, talk? So of course, I was there yapping away when the conversation turned to me talking about a woman's rights to an abortion. Now, I do remember my aunt saying that my opinions go against the word of God, but I ignored her and kept talking about this rather taboo subject. As the conversation went on, I noticed my aunt was getting increasingly restless until she finally lost her nerve and screamed, "Shut up!" I was shocked. And while we all stewed in this really awkward silence as the miles rolled by, I was left feeling attacked, insulted, and punished all at once. I was definitely hurt, but I was pushing my aunt's buttons, the great big buttons which should never be pushed, because in my aunt's mind, I was poisoning her daughter with unholy ideas. My aunt wanted me to stop talking, not just because I was being really annoying, but because my opinions were causing her extreme discomfort. According to the uncertainty reduction theory, when people are faced with uncertainty caused by discomfort in social situations, people may attempt to control the conversation. Well, this makes sense, since we all often derive our sense of purpose, meaning, and stability from our belief systems. We use it to navigate this honestly really confusing world. So of course, it's natural that when you hear someone spouting ideas that challenge the beliefs that make up the essence of your existence, it's uncomfortable, but also terrifying. Though my aunt's justification for her reaction was not just that my ideas were super terrifying or made her super uncomfortable, but to her, what I was saying was harmful. This is where things get a bit tricky, because I suspect if I asked you all, should we limit harmful speech? Many of you might say, yes. Well, that is if you could reply. But what if I asked you, is talking about relevant political subjects harmful? Now, many of you would say, no. So the question becomes, who gets to decide which ideas are harmful? Let's say you hear someone make a blatantly racist comment. I'm sure many of us, including myself, would feel inclined to silence whoever said it because we feel an obligation to do the right thing and silence the spread of a harmful idea. Or during COVID, we all probably supported shutting up medical misinformation because, of course, medical misinformation is harmful to society. But this form of shutting people up by shutting them down has evolved into the phenomenon known as cancel culture. The internet and all the social media platforms it has spawned has served as a great way for people to speak their minds and share their opinions. But, well, there's always a but, it's also served as a way for people to impose their own ideas and shut up ones they deem as harmful. Cancellation has often resulted in people being taken off social media platforms, which has happened to Alex Jones, a very radical American far-right radio show host who was banned from Twitter for dissemination of conspiracy theories. He accused the US government of staging the horrific Sandy Hook school shooting. I think most of us in this room, regardless of our political stance on certain issues, would argue that this is objectively wrong, and that the spread of misinformation, just like COVID, is wrong. So this extreme example is pretty clear-cut and justified, but it's not that simple. Well, it's not always that simple. A Georgetown University professor had lost her job after commenting on the performance of her Black students on Twitter. She was lamenting the fact that her Black students had performed worse on the exam, and this comment was viewed as racist, and she was then fired. Though this isn't as clear-cut, because while some viewed the comment as racist, others thought it highlighted how often African American communities often receive worse quality education because of underlying systemic issues. Just like with this professor, when we allow people to shut up ideas we find harmful, we may be denying society the chance to hear information that, in fact, may be helpful in solving problems. So, what if we took what this professor said and used it to truly understand the systemic issues that continue to underscore our society? Average people are also getting canceled for supporting causes that other people deem as harmful, and this has resulted in doxing, which is exposing someone's private information. Essentially, cancel culture is large groups of individuals shutting up other individuals for ideas they can't even stand to hear. The answer in these situations is not to shut up people with ideas with which we disagree, but to allow them into the light of public scrutiny and to challenge them with what we think are better, more socially or scientifically supported ideas. This phenomenon, though, has only been exacerbated by the online algorithms social media platforms use to increase profit. Of course, they want you to stay continuously engaged, so they're only going to show you content that aligns with your views. This is a form of self-induced censoring. Governments do something similar. Oftentimes, they curate media to exclusively show you content that pushes a certain agenda. For example, the US government agencies were shown in released Twitter files to have been working with some social media platforms to suggest which views should be promoted and which ones should be suppressed. Or let's look at some more extreme cases. Russia, China, and North Korea often have a heavier hand on what people can and can't hear. Let's take Russia. Putin's greatest critic, Alexei Navalny. He sadly died while serving a 19-year prison sentence. He refused to live in exile and used court hearings against him as a stage to criticize the repression in Russia and the war against Ukraine. His imprisonment and totally natural death in one of Russia's harshest penal colonies, I mean, come on, it's in Siberia, was essentially Russia slapping a big shut up to their opposition. This even happens in countries with rather strong democracies. In the UK, there was a girl there whose friend had unfortunately passed away, and to commemorate her, she wanted to post her friend's favorite song on Instagram. The song did include some racist language like the N-word, and guess what happened? She was arrested for sending a grossly offensive message. I mean, those weren't even her words, it was a song she posted. Or here in Spain, a rapper was arrested for his lyrics that poked a little bit of fun at the Spanish monarchy. Limitations on freedom of speech seemed distant, seemed like something that was relegated to the history books. But whatever these really imminent causes, cancel culture, social media algorithms, or government intervention, in the end, we all see the same impact. All of these situations create echo chambers in which we become stuck in identical political, social, and philosophical views. We live in these echo chambers, so the second you meet a person who happens to be from a different bubble, you are going to find their ideas immediately harmful, and you're then going to shut them up. These echo chambers have even prompted institutions touted as free speech zones to, like speech and debate tournaments, to even contradict their own principles. In some debate leagues, like the National Speech and Debate Association in the US, many judges have begun using judging paradigms. These paradigms are ideological frameworks that the judges hold to frame their own decisions. To paraphrase how one judge put it, when judging economic debates, I will never vote for capitalist economic principles. What's really ironic in this case is that this judge was the 2019 NSDA debate champion, so I don't think she really understood the point of debate. Judges with these paradigms are disqualifying debaters that even dare to challenge their beliefs. This happened to my debate partner and I. We had lost the judge's ballot because she had literally come up to us and told us, "I'm sorry, but you were on the side of a motion which I didn't like, so I had to vote for the other team." That loses the whole point of debate. Which is terrible, because one of my favorite things about debate is being forced to hear or argue in favor of positions that I wouldn't agree with normally. Because, get this, sometimes hearing the logic and reasoning of another side often prompts me to change my mind and grow, and as a thinker and as a person. These instances, and so many more, are the equivalent of a kidnapper duct taping their hostage's mouth shut. Because in all of these cases, our ideas, expression, and speech are being held hostage by those dictating what we can and can't say. Because, ladies and gentlemen, shutting someone up minimizes free expression, discourse, and discussion. When we accept shutting up speech, we can guarantee that those in power, whether that be a government, a social group, or a religious entity, will be dictating who can speak out and whose speech is harmful and therefore must be shut up. Sure, we want to use our values as a compass to point us in the right direction of minimizing harmful or distasteful speech. But I want you to all think about it for a second. What exactly is harmful or distasteful? Speech, like anything, is super subjective. What I may like, you may not. Because just like food, music, art, and comedy, we all like different things. Because what is good, bad, and yes, even harmful, often depends on us, our own interpretation. This can be influenced by our own culture, personal preferences, political points of view, philosophical perspectives, literally almost anything. Given its fun subjectivity, should there be some limits to speech in some cases? I think banning speech which is either criminal or directly incites violence is a good place to draw the line. But deciding what's a bit too close to that line is the difficult part. So the natural conclusion is that society is best served by allowing the broadest space for the free exchange and expression of ideas as possible. What this means is getting information from sources outside of your social media bubble. This graph right here shows you the alignment of different news sources. So read from sources on the right, in the middle, or on the left, everywhere on this graph to truly expose yourself to all kinds of ideas. And most importantly, don't tell people with different opinions to shut up. Ditching the phrase and embracing a wider acceptance of diverse ideas will finally give us the freedom of speech that yappers like me long for. I'll no longer have to fear the dark imagery of being shut away in a coffin or losing a debate because of a biased debate judge. When we celebrate free speech, we can push society forward. So speak your mind. Share your opinions. Debate a side with which you disagree. Heck, give a TED Talk about whatever ideas are worth sharing. And be like little me. And never shut up. Thank you.